Good afternoon. My name is Elena Ionescu and I am happy to be here, virtually and in the pre-recorded presentation format. The topic I would like to explore for you in this presentation looks at the Family Caregiver Support Program's effectiveness, taking into consideration few theoretical frameworks. The main idea of my research was to find answers to one apparently simple question. How does California support and sustain the increasing demand for family caregivers of older adults? Moreover, I wanted to understand what the policies within the community are and how one can benefit from the provisions given under the Family Caregiver Support Program. My overall why for this topic is to generate informed policy discussions among leaders in the caregiving and long-term care sectors. The National Family Caregiver Support Program stands under Title IIIe of Older Americans Act, and it dates back to 1965. In 2000, the program was established and amended as public law. This is the first federally funded program to focus on family caregivers. The program is administered jointly by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Administration for Community Living. The program grantees provide 5 types of services to informal caregivers of older adults. Services include information and assistance, individual counseling, support groups and caregiver training, respite care, and supplemental services to complement family care. The program extends to grandparents over 60 years of age who are the primary caregivers of grandchildren. However, for my research, the focus remained on the family caregivers of older adults, 50 plus years of age. The federal funds for caregiving services are allocated based on the interstate funding formula. That means each state is required to match 25% of the received program's federal funds. Unfortunately, given the time constraints of this presentation, I will not get into details about explaining how the formula calculates the program's allotted funds per state, but if interested, please do email me and I will gladly communicate my knowledge based on the made research. While exploring the discussed program, I encountered few policy theoretical concepts. The active aging framing was used to foster an understanding of how the older adult decides on the delivered care and to what point in the informal caregiving process the caregiver decides to benefit from the offered support services. The interdependence of generations economic framework was used to assist in analyzing how the informal caregiver decides on the role of caregiving and if the allocated federal funds are truly helping the family efforts in taking care of the older adults they have in their care. Lastly, neoliberalism was used to explore the interplay between neoliberal ideology and healthcare labor areas, such as accessing or reducing state-funded programs for those who assist the older adults based on the individual context and the determinants of aging. Methodology comprised a literature review where I searched programs' policy reports to identify how the socioeconomic context of the program supports the informal caregiver. Then I explored articles that focused on the growing demand for the informal caregivers in order to connect how effective the services offered by this program are. And lastly, I reviewed policy theoretical concepts associated with programs analysis to explore how the program in question can improve the individual's quality of life and care. Only English language, peer-reviewed articles and governmental reports were considered for the analysis. Reports and studies published within the last 10 years were given priority. However, for demographic comparison and theoretical frameworks, no publishing year was given constraints. Few themes emerged from the data analysis. In terms of program utilization trends, not all informal caregivers take advantage of the provided services regardless of their eligibility. Many informal caregivers do not know about the existence of such programs. Others do not believe that the provided services are meeting their caregiving needs. Others do not identify themselves as caregivers, considering the caregiving role as a normal part of family life. The family that decide eventually to utilize the services often do so when the caregiving burden has escalated, which diminishes the services' efficacy. Women and caregivers of color benefit the least from the provided support services. While some informal caregivers are not informed about the healthcare providers of the program services, other informal caregivers of color decide not to use the services based on the prior experiences related to insurance, economic, or other discriminatory aspects. Other informal caregivers cannot use the services because the programs are not culturally appropriate or they do not speak the language in which the program is offered. In California, with 58 counties to serve, 33 area agencies on aging are spread across the state to serve the communities. The services offered by these agencies do not control for whether the informal caregiver is paid or not, and all people identified as caregivers can access the offered services. The Caregiver Resource Centers services are the most used by caregivers, followed by adult daycare and respite programs. Adult daycare centers with specialized dementia care are also highly utilized. However, only 23 counties provide them, forcing the caregiver to have access to transportation. General community social services programs such as dementia classes and counseling group sessions are greatly utilized. The least used services are the legal services, which can be due to the fact that not all services are available for all counties. Since the funds are used at discretion, each county has different service package and the caregivers do not always find the same services across the counties. Overall, the National Family Caregiving Support Program is a program in demand. However, it remains a program with a modest impact. Given the multifaceted caregiving tasks, family caregivers need the program services. The family caregivers using the services find them beneficial. However, the allocated funds are simply not enough to fully serve the community's needs. The program also needs to improve how it delivers its services. A uniform family caregiver assessment across the states can better preserve the funds and assist in determining how efficiently money is spent. Better data collection about the offered services effectiveness, caregivers served, and funds spent is recommended. The rural communities are also known to face barriers and be disadvantaged when healthcare services are analyzed. Solutions on how these barriers can be removed depends on the state and county. One solution could be to invest in technology that enhances access to healthcare if other measures are too costly. One last recommendation, and probably the easiest to be addressed, is to advertise the program and let the community members know about the offered services. At the local level, each agency offering the program services should promote the services in more effective ways. Collaboration between the agencies will also make possible access to information. As I conclude my presentation, I want you to consider three main ideas. First and most important, there is the permanent need to strengthen families in their caregiving role. We need to support family caregivers as we understand that they are the backbone of our long-term care system. Second, the Older Americans Act is reauthorized every 4 years. The more we know about the needs of family caregiving role, the more we can support the Reauthorization Act as a community. How much money is allocated for this program is directly correlated to the needs our communities have. The more services of this program are used, more likely the allocated funds will grow. People must know about the offered services and should be encouraged to take advantage of such program. Lastly, the caregiving support programs at the community level, it's approached in different ways. Some agencies see the caregiver support as a component of programs that serve frail older adults or adults with disabilities, whereas others view caregiver support as a separate program with distinct eligibility criteria. There is the need to ensure explicit recognition programs for family caregivers individuals with rights to their own services and support. Moreover, despite the importance of state-administrated funded programs in the everyday lives of families, it is known relatively little about how these programs operate in the community or the differences in their philosophy or structure. And that is all. Thank you for your patience and interest on the presented topic. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions related to this presentation or the National Family Caregiving Support Program, please email me at the given email address, elena.ionescu@csulb.edu. Thank you.